Hello and welcome to Living La Vida Lockdown with Philippa Perry and Salon London. Welcome. I hope you're well. I'm Helen Bagnall. I'm one of the founders of Salon London, which is an entity designed to get us together with the big and useful and bold and brilliant ideas of our time. I'm going to be in conversation with Philippa Perry, but not for long, for about 15-20 minutes. This is a really good opportunity to put your questions to Philippa. I really felt at Salon that we'd been in lockdown for 3 weeks and had Easter. Holidays can be difficult, that it was definitely time, at least for Salon London, to check in with a psychotherapist. And so I'm so glad that Philippa has agreed to do Salon today. Philippa is a renowned psychotherapist, and she is an author of Couch Fiction, which is When We Met. She then went on to write How to Stay Sane, and I'm sure you know her from her Sunday Times bestselling award-winning book, The Book You Wish Your Parents Had Read and Your Children Will Be Glad That You Did. And like I say, this will be a Q&A session. We've had lots of questions coming in already, so please feel free to text them in. I believe the number is at the bottom of your screen, and so please text them through to us when you can. Before I've introduced Philippa properly, I just wanted to say hello to a couple of people, particularly our Salon London members. Thank you so much. You really are keeping us going. In fact, Philippa is actually a Salon London member. I also particularly like to say thank you to Maya and Jill, who sent her some really lovely emails. Thank you. And to Charlotte and Pauline, who are really keeping Salon London going logistically. I also like to say thank you so much. I'd say and hello and thank you so much to everyone at Salon London who knows us, anyone who has met us at Also Festival, our friends in the North, Berwyn, Salon North, and also Philippa Perry superfans from Twitter. If you've joined us from there, thank you very much. So Philippa, hello.
Hi.
Hello. I just wondered if anyone ever asks a psychotherapist how they're doing. How are you doing? How are you finding lockdown?
There you go. Is that enough?
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because it's a new situation, and so we can learn new things about ourselves in new situations. Um, you know, I think it's quite interesting because in this lockdown situation, we're not only bored and cooped up, but we're also checking ourselves for symptoms every day, which is an additional worry. But what I tend to do is focus on the things I can do something about, like trying to source Felix cat pouches.
We might have a cameo from Kevin the cat at some point, I think.
I'm not in the backyard, so I'm hoping not.
Okay. I guess the big question is, to start us off, is really, why is this lockdown so strange psychologically?
We've never done it before. I mean, we don't live in a place where we often have curfews, and it's like we're under curfew, and we all know the reason why. But our bodies, somehow we've all, I think, got a sort of small child within us as well. So sensibly, and we're allowing our thinking and our reasoning to keep us locked down. But I think we've all got a sort of rebellious child within us that's going, I want to go out. And so I think not only we may be in conflict with the people we're locked down with, but we're in conflict with ourselves. And I think that spills out onto general grouchiness.
I was going to cover a lot of that. I was reading a book about kind of human beings as animals a couple of weeks ago, and I think I mentioned to you, if they were going to put a human into the zoo, they would say, "Do not house in isolation." And it really struck a chord, because I know through our work with you at Salon, and also, you strongly believe we live in relationship to other people. That's how.
I'd like to give a big shout out there to those people who live alone, because they probably live alone because they choose to live alone. But when you choose to live alone, you can regulate as to when you see other people and when you withdraw back. Now they haven't got that. I mean, I've got a friend who's quite antisocial, and he goes and does his work in a cafe. He doesn't talk to anyone, but he goes and does his work in a cafe. Now he can't do that. And he's really missing, he's just realized he did that because he liked other bodies around him. We all like to think we belong and we're part of something, and we sort of feel it on a bodily level. So when that's taken away from us, we are very discombobulated. It feels weird. And I think we've got to watch out for feeling depressed, because that's what happens when we feel isolated and we feel we don't belong. So if you are beginning to feel depressed, well, I'm really sorry about that. It's kind of tough, and let's hope this doesn't go on for too long.
I think that's really, one of the reasons we wanted to do this at this point was, I think, we were told 3 weeks. I think we psychologically prepared for 3 weeks, even though we knew it probably wasn't going to be 3 weeks. And again, Easter can be a long holiday if you're on your own. It can be a long holiday if you're with your family. It can be a long holiday if you're not with your family. It's a long holiday. And so I think, thank you so much for doing this today. So this is, I thought it was a good chance to...
I wasn't really going anywhere, mate. I mean, I was thinking of a nice little cottage on the South Downs with a little walk to the sea. That would have been nice with this weather, but that ain't happening this year.
Oh, well, thanks for being with us. But, and it's really interesting talking about your friend, because I was thinking of my own feelings, getting ready for talking to you. And, I realised one of the things I am really, really missing is that shared experience. Going to see something with 100 other people, with 50 other people.
I didn't realise that was so important to me until it was taken away. I thought I went to the cinema to see the film, but actually I can watch telly. So why would I go and watch drama at the cinema? I think we say, oh, I need to get out. But I think actually I just need to sit in a room with other people and have a shared experience.
Yeah. That's been a real thing I hadn't realised that I was so dependent on for
my... It's so interesting, isn't it, that we need that, and we sort of took it for granted, and it was sort of like unconscious need that got unconsciously met by sitting in the cafe or going to see a film or going to a concert or something, or meeting up for coffee with people, just sort of really casual get-togethers. Even if you don't make a plan to do it, you pop into work or something and see people. That isn't there, and it's interesting the effect it has on us. So we can observe ourselves and think, interesting, I really need this, and we can be more conscious and aware about it in future, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Which brings us to sort of like a second big question, which is, how, as we're getting towards like a month of, really kind of being under lockdown, it's like, how do we maintain our relationships, our key relationships? How do we keep them going when we're not seeing each other?
Well, I think this is something that we each have to negotiate with those other people. I'm actually finding friendly Zooms quite difficult now. I find it like, I don't mind doing this because it's a sort of like work typey Zoom, but all those sort of chatty Zooms that I'm doing, I feel like I'm just not getting what I need from them. And I find them, I don't know why that is, because obviously I love seeing people. I just think I want to break bread with people, not just talk to them, I think. And anyway, how do we maintain relationships? I think a great thing to do is to have this Skype or Zoom on while you're doing something else. So my daughter and I can both have our Zooms or our Skypes on, but we can be getting on with cleaning out the cupboards or making bread or something. So it's like being in the room together, but not having to talk. So that's one thing you can do with people you're separated from. Just have them on for about 4 hours. But what normally happens is that my husband walks in with nothing on or something. So you've got to be careful. I think I'd definitely do that a lot if I lived on my own. I'm locked down with a husband
and a cat.
And a cat, yeah. So I'd probably do that more if I was on my own.
It's really interesting. It's almost like we're adapting the technology to what we need. In the early days, it was like, that's okay, we can deal with this lack of contact. We've got Zoom, we've got Skype. Oh, this is amazing. But it's almost like too social. That needs to be that, almost that intimacy without performing or being in a social role that we need.
That's exactly it. It's the being with we're missing, not the talking to, the being with. And it's a different thing to just talking to. I think you're also all the frustrations you feel about the lack of contact. I think if you are living with someone, you can start to nitpick and find and realize they have many faults that you can help them overcome. I think if we can possibly maybe write these down in a diary and keep quiet about them, it'd be great, rather than criticizing our partner for dealing with things differently than we deal with them. I don't think that's particularly helpful at the moment.
It really seems to be, you know, in the questions that we've had, that, you know, the emotional response to lockdown has been such a range, and the questions we've got have shown such a different ways of feeling, you know, different feelings connected to it. And I guess one of the questions, perhaps this plays into your point about, you know, it's not a time to do a special study of your partner's faults, is
I don't know where to go.
But is there a chance to, you know, do some? I know you're fond of emotional growth. But, you know, is this a chance for kind of like to have some emotional
growth? What gave you
I know.
growth to happen? First of all, you have to feel something's wrong. So that's painful. And then the growth bit comes in sort of like, well, what can I do differently so I can feel differently? So you don't get growth without pain. You don't get the pearl in the oyster without the irritant. So, you know, of course I hate personal growth. Whatever gave you the idea that I...
Yeah, it's liking personal growth in other people. And to that aim, you know, I realise that it's very easy to presume the feelings of the people that you're on lockdown with. And actually this came through in a couple of the questions that we're getting, you know, getting prepared for this is, you know, people are feeling very differently to the same experience, you know, and I'd lived with my partner, and I asked them how they were feeling, and it was very different. I thought we were having a great time and we were really enjoying it. It was a lovely time together. He wasn't feeling exactly the same. And, you know, so but is it a good chance to sort of check in and to make sure you do understand how it's affecting other people in your home?
Yeah, because I think we all bring our unique experience of the world to it, and our unique mix of nature, nurture, genes, and everything that's gone before to it. So we'll all experience it differently. Yeah. I mean, what I loved was having my diary cleared. That was amazing. So much so that I don't even look at it anymore, and I keep missing things that I'm supposed to be doing like this.
One of the things that kept coming through in the questions was, you know, I'm really enjoying this. And in fact, I've got a question from Darcy, who's a young teenager in South London, and she said, you know, am I okay, Philippa? Am I normal? Is it okay? I'm kind of enjoying this. And, you know, I said, can you just tell me a bit more about that so I can ask Philippa and make sure I get the question right? And she said, yeah, I think it's the lack of having a timetable, the lack of being told what to do, the lack of, you know, being every moment kind of like structured. I'm really enjoying it. And she wanted reassurance that was okay.
Yes, it's okay, Darcy. It's fantastic. It's great that you've noticed something. Like, before, maybe there wasn't a choice and you just had that timetable, you know, be here then, imposed on you, and you hadn't got the chance to notice what it feels like just to go with the flow, just to sort of notice a need, try and get that need met. Yeah, it sounds fantastic. That's great. And I can identify with that a lot. I'm quite enjoying that too. But I'm also missing my group activities. But I am enjoying the freedom of having a clear diary. It's amazing. And so thank God for the Darcys who are looking for the positives here.
Always thank God for the Darcys, absolutely. Is there an opportunity though? I mean, we do a lot with technology and psychology and how to live, as you know, in Salon and also. And it has seemed over the last sort of 5 or 6 years, as technology's got better at making us efficient, that almost our minds haven't been able to keep up with how efficient we are able to be. And, you know, wonders, is that something we can take back into normal life? You know, this idea, as Darcy's putting it, is like we don't have to have as efficient as possible a timetable. We can dictate, this is how we want to enable technology to live at the pace we want to live psychologically.
I mean, I feel like a lot of the meetings we did used to meet up for, we probably think, nah, there's no need to go into town. We can do that from home. And, you know, that's great if you've got other contact. You know, if you can go to the pub and see people as well, why would you struggle all the way into town to have 45 minutes with people when you can do it like this? So I think we will make changes. I think a lot more people will continue to work from home after this is finished. And maybe we'll use our cars less, move left, maybe fly less, you know, maybe think, yes, I can enjoy exploring that inner landscape. I don't need to go to Sicily. I don't think I'm going to be one of those.
And we have talked a bit about, you know, trying to use this as a time to think about how we live and how we might want to live when things pick up again. But, you know, what if the anxiety about your situation is really, you know, making things very difficult for you?
The thing is about an awkward situation like this is that it will put a magnifying glass on issues you've got anyway. So if you're generally a bit of a worrier, that will really blow up. If everything's a bit exaggerated, I think that's what lockdown does in a way. So if you're very kind of like cavalier, you'll be a bit more cavalier. If you're very super anxious and careful, you'll be a bit more super anxious and careful. I think it's making us exaggerate. It's sort of highlighting our normal character traits. And I can't remember what the question was actually.
It's about anxiety, really. I mean, it's just trying to...
I think it's great if you're anxious to write down everything you're anxious about and put it in categories like personal, work, money, mental health, or whatever it is. Put it in categories and then break those categories down so you just deal with a little bit at a time. I think if you're trying to put out the whole fire at once with the hose, you'll put out none of them if you just let it go around. So break it down into sizable chunks. And I think there's a poem by Rudyard Kipling about cope with the stuff you can actually have power over. So yeah, you can wear a mask, you can wear your rubber gloves, and you can limit your contact as much as possible. That's all you can do, really. You can't take a machine gun to the virus. You can't. So there's a limit to what we can do, and we have to accept that. And I think that's why I personally might be obsessing a bit on the stuff I can do something about. Like, I feel like a hunter-gatherer when I go out in search of flour or a certain brand of cat food. It's like, yes, I'm going to nail this. And I get an enormous satisfaction if I do score a bag of flour. And yes, I did use the word score a bag of flour. It's the only white powder I'm interested in at the moment.
Still, yeah, exactly. Still a frisson of excitement there. But I think you raised a really interesting point, which was this, you know, idea that whatever your sort of coping mechanism is, or you know, whatever your sort of personality is, or how you deal with stress is going to be amplified.
Yeah, you'll know what your default mood is for sure, because you'll be in it quite a lot. And it's interesting if you can think about, well, do I like the mood, my sort of neutral mood? Or is there something I can do to change it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, I think I certainly have found myself that, you know, perhaps kind of eating and drinking, you know, a little bit more than you would, and you can kind of feel that anything you've got a tendency towards using as a coping mechanism is suddenly what you're going to.
I've put on. I put on roughly £1.50 a week for every week of lockdown.
But you think that that's understandable, or something that you should be, you know, a little bit more accepting of in yourself at the moment?
comfort and, you know, some coping mechanisms like eating too much. I'm making a lot of cake. I made a lovely chocolate coffee walnut the other day. It's using up the walnuts from Christmas. It's sort of like, yes, so what? Let's not try and be perfect human beings. Obviously, if I get towards diabetic dimensions, I might do something about it. But right now, no, I'm going to continue having fun baking and eating. It's something to look forward to.
No, it's so true, so true.
I don't want us to feel like we have to optimize this time alone and do the best thing. I think it's fine to be grumpy, so long as we don't take it out on other people too much. I think it's fine to have whatever mood you're in or whatever mood your partner's in and children are in. And we can just be there with each other while we have these moods.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. I'm going to...
You know, drop that. That's an expectation that's just going to be a big disappointment. Drop that one.
Yeah, it's something that we're going through rather than something we can do perfectly.
Let's not worry about acing it. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to ask some questions. We've got loads of questions coming through. So I've got a question about living on your own. And a person who's asked the question has said, I live on my own and I think I'm using lockdown as an excuse to fall back into bad habits. I've started meeting up with a man I've had an affair with, I've been trying to pull away with and telling myself it doesn't count because everything isn't normal at the moment. But I think I might be storing up problems for the future.
So I hope you're meeting him online and not in the flesh. Don't be so hard on yourself. Just see how it unfolds rather than judging yourself you're doing something good or bad the whole time. I mean, I think you're a grown up, so you've got an observer part working really well, watching yourself do this. And you're doing what you need to do in the present to feel okay, but just keep checking in with yourself as to whether you do feel okay. And if you feel less okay than okay, then you can make a change. If you're continuing to feel okay and even better than okay, you know, don't think you have to be perfect. Get your comfort where you can and have a lovely affair.
We've got a question about the thinking about what might happen. This is for Angela, who says, thank you for all you do. And she wants to know if we'll be able to overcome the trauma of the pandemic. She said, you know, she suffers with anxiety and depression already and lives alone. And just feels really, really, really down about the future, and is just wondering about her ability to cope with that as a trauma.
I think it's quite good at the moment to live in the present, and rather than in a traumatized past or an uncertain future. The future is always uncertain, and it's our job to accept that uncertainty. And if you just live in the present and be mindful of the blossom you can see through the window and what it feels like to be thirsty and then have a drink, you know, meeting our needs. I love how socially we're drinking.
Cheers, everyone.
In a month, because it's morning. Yeah. And there is actually quite a lot of good online help at the moment. There's an organisation called talkforhealth.co.uk, which used to be all about meeting in rooms. And it's a sort of like an AA group for people who aren't alcoholics, you know, just people who want to talk. And it's about talking for your health. And they're all meeting online at the moment. So I think if you're going crazy because you've got no one to check out with and no one you feel you can be completely yourself with, it's worth having a look at their website. It's Talk for Health, and the 4 is FOR, co.uk. And there's online meetings and online co-counselling type trainings you can get involved with, and it's free.
Yeah, it's there. Use it. We've got a few questions, obviously, about. Sorry, Philippa.
There's other organisations as well, like Mind and Sane, and they might have some online programs. And if you feel like you're just going crazy by yourself, it's a good idea to check what resources there are out there for you.
Yeah.
Online is alive and well.
Yeah, online therapy is live. It's really interesting. Like a lot of people who seem to be coping incredibly well with lockdown seem to be people who are working at home, are really happy in their jobs, have strong family relationships, exercise quite a lot, eat very well, and it's just there does seem to be.
Already, these people, are they?
A psychotherapist would be out of a job if we all lived like that, I think. But I wanted to ask about families. Obviously, your incredible book, award-winning book, the book you wish your parents had read and your children would be glad who did. A lot of people are on lockdown with their families, and it can be difficult. One thing I wanted to ask you is, how on earth are people supposed to work when they've got young children at home?
If you've got very young children at home, what they will not understand is if you're there and you say, I can't play with you now, I have to work. And even I feel a bit like this. Like if a friend, sometimes a friend knocks on the door here, and of course they can't come in, and we have a chat like 3 meters apart, whatever it is, on the doorstep, and it just feels so weird that I know they're not rejecting me by not coming in, but my body doesn't. So I go, bye, and I think, why don't they come in? Sort of like, I know it in my head, but my feelings are feelings of rejection. So this is what a kid will be feeling as well. They might hear the words, no, mummy's got to work now, but they'll feel rejected. They'll feel, and then there'll be a right pain. But they're not really being a pain, they're just being themselves. So to get around this, my top tip is, if you've got to do your spreadsheets and your kid wants to play, don't say to them, I'll play with you when this is finished, because they'll go, have you finished yet? Have you finished yet? Have you finished yet? Have you finished yet? I can do that for a long time, and so can they. So what you need to do is get an activity that they could probably manage by themselves, and do it with them. Do it with them first. I know you're dying to get to work. I know you've got a deadline. Do the activity with the kid first. And then they'll feel comfortable because they've got mum or dad. And then when they get more involved, you can just take a step back, then another step back, then another step back. And they go on this thing called autopilot. And you might get 20-30 minutes of uninterrupted work done while they're talking dolly or vroom-vrooming trucks. So that's the top tip. Play first, work later, because then they won't feel that rejection that they can't help feeling, because they can hear the words, I can't play, I'm working, but they can't process that and make sense of that in their bodies. And even I have difficulty with that myself.
Oh, and with someone we work with was saying that her children, very young children, don't mind if she's reading a book, but not happy when she's on a computer, which I thought was really interesting.
Yeah, it's because we're having that sort of connection on a computer sometimes that they feel left out. My kid hated it when I read. I can remember when I had a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old. We didn't have laptops so much then. And she didn't like it if I read a magazine when I was breastfeeding. She just wanted eye contact the whole time.
Oh, I'm staying on young children for a moment. We've got a question from Pauline in South London, and she's got a 22-month-old, and she's worried that she wanted to ask if lack of social engagement with other children, her child is an only child, would that have any long-term impact?
Well, not at 22 months, not so much. But their brains are developing very, very fast, and they develop in relationship with others. And it's kind of tough that all that relationship has to be provided by mum and dad right now, or just mum or just dad if they're on their own. So that is tough, and parents getting a bit fed up, and perhaps the kid feeling a bit rejected, that will have a long-term effect. But so try not to do that. Stay engaged, one day at a time. I think the age group that will be suffering the most from this lockdown are 13, 14, 15, 16-year-olds, because they just want to go out with their tribes. They want to mate. Outside my house last night, I heard a lot of kids that somehow managed to break away from home and meet up. I mean, terrible, bad. I heard another neighbour shouting at them, "What are you doing? You're killing us. Go home." I think it's really hard for that, because the pull to leave the family and to mate and to find their own tribes is really hard. And it'd be such a strong motivation. And their frontal cortex, this bit where you do your reasoning and your thinking, that isn't so wired up yet for them. So the emotional pull, the bodily pull, will be stronger than the reasoning pull. I mean, not for all of them, but I think that makes it especially hard. I think up to adolescence, yeah, they'll miss their friends, and that is sad. But we can be with them in that sadness, and
be with them,
not tell them off for being sad, not say, "I told you why you can't." No, don't do that. Instead of saying, "I told you why you can't do this," and "No, don't ask me again," go, "Yeah, it's hard. That's it. Yeah, it's hard. What can we do if we can't play with mates instead?" And brainstorm with the kid. They'll come up with some great ideas, like maybe you can FaceTime, or maybe play a game over the internet or something. I don't know.
Yeah, actually, we've got a question. I'm going to talk about a couple more questions on teenagers. We've got a question in from Francis, who says, how can I maintain a routine for teenagers aged 16 and 14? They've gone nocturnal. Does that matter?
No. They're 16 and 14. They are nocturnal at that point. No, not really. Not unless it's keeping her awake. It's not up to her to maintain. They're quite old, those 14 and 18. They'll be finding their own ways of
14 and 16.
14 and 16. They'll be finding their own ways of making their own routines. What I would say, though, if something as a parent or as anyone is really getting on your nerves, don't "you should" the other person. Don't say "you should limit your computer time," or "you should go to bed by midnight." Say, "I'm worried because XXX and I would like XXX. It would make me feel better." Because that's the truth. Just tell the truth and relate to them as you would anybody, rather than seeing them as projects that you have to get right. It's far more important to relate to someone at this time. And if there's something that's annoying you, talk about it by defining yourself and not telling them what they're like. That is absolutely crucial right now when you're living.
Yeah, I think, can you just explain that a little bit more? Because it's just so important. I think, people are under a lot of pressure, living in family situations, 24/7. Explain what you mean about not defining yourself. And
okay. No, you have to define yourself.
Yeah, see, I'm confused already.
Don't define the other person. Don't you anybody. Don't say you are stacking the dishwasher wrong. Say, I like stacking the dishwasher like this, and it gets on my nerves when you put the cups in that way up and they all collect water. Please do it the other way around, otherwise I get so upset. Rather than, "You're wrong to stack the dishwasher like that. You're a bad person." Because don't use someone, because that's shaming. If someone says you should be in bed by midnight to me, I feel shamed. I feel attacked. If somebody said, "When you walk around the house after midnight, you keep me awake, and I'd really like it if we could have stillness in the house after midnight so I can sleep." Define yourself. You see, it's that if I say you to you, Helen, right now, "You should be in bed by midnight," how do you feel? I'm a bit bossy, aren't I? It feels a little bit like I'm trying to dominate you. But if I say, you're keeping me up when you're walking around the house after midnight, and I need to sleep then. So I would like it if you could be quieter after midnight. How does that feel?
No, yeah, loads better.
Yeah, it's sort of
Yeah.
like I'm defining myself. I'm saying what I need. I need the house quiet after midnight. So you can't, I don't want you to play music after midnight
Mm.
unless you've got your headphones in, you know.
Yeah, or your guitar, for example.
Because so often we do the you should be in bed by midnight thing. And it doesn't make for a harmonious household, really.
Mm.
I mean, it's so easy to feel, and I feel it myself, everything would be fine as so long as everyone did everything that I wanted. But then everybody's feeling that. Okay. So that isn't tenable. So all we can do is describe ourselves, sort of like, I like it when, I don't like it when, it works for me when, I feel irritated by, I feel sad when, rather than you are doing this wrong, you are a bad person, you should do it like this. That is horrible. Don't you anyone. If you're wondering how to say something, think about relating as a person to another person rather than having to manipulate someone. You don't want to manipulate someone because then they'll just manipulate you back. So forget about manipulation. Think about I-you communication and describe yourself and not them. So I statements, not you statements, is
Yeah,
it's really important, but especially in lockdown, I think.
it's really interesting. And by the same token, if you have different attitudes towards lockdown, we covered this earlier, depending on the kind of person you are and the way that you cope with stressors, are all equal. If you see lockdown as a great chance to catch up with chores, is that your chance to catch up with chores? You don't enforce that on everyone else in the household. If you want to be outside and do the allotment, you don't make that everyone else's goal. If you want to watch TV, you should be allowed to watch TV. Is that an easy way to sort of harmonious lockdown?
Yeah, I just sort of realised that other people have different needs and wants. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's really it's interesting. You're saying about teenagers, and where they are developmentally is really different. As you said, they really are primed to be out with their tribe and out.
They're experiencing this differently to say a 60-year-old or a 5-year-old. Yeah.
And I had a question about teenagers, and I think that's it is one of the groups that's hardest hit by this, and
Yeah, they're missing out on all the exams they've worked for. They're probably going to miss out on all the fabulous music festivals that they can go to for the first time on their own. I mean, what a rite of passage. And they're missing out on their sort of graduation balls, and they've been looking forward to that all their bloody lives. It's
yeah.
horrible. And you can say, oh, you do it next year. No, there's another year doing it next year. They can't. They've missed it, and they need sympathy.
They do need sympathy. I had a question about teenagers, and that is, I totally understand it's really, really hard for teenagers. I think you're absolutely right. They really do need our sympathy, and that's absolutely right. But if you're living with two teenagers, say the example of Francis or anyone else, and they are, how do they cope with each other?
What the
Yeah, they're both going through this extremely, difficult, situation. It's a very difficult relationship in a small space. And I just wondered if you had any advice for people who are dealing with, two teenagers who are really struggling with each other.
That's tricky, isn't it? There you go. I'm just being alongside it. This is really hard. This is really hard because you've both got really strong feelings. Let's slow it down. Let's see what X is feeling. Okay, no, listen. Let's see what Y is feeling. Listen. Okay, so you're feeling like this and you're feeling like that. We've got two different sets of feelings here, and they're both really, really strong. How do you think the best way forward is? Can we brainstorm? What we don't want is winners and losers. What we want is cooperation and what is the word when you both give a little? Compromise, cooperation and compromise. And we've got all the time in the world right now. So rather than having to sort everything out with a bit of shouting, which we tend to feel will be quicker, but it isn't, it's so much better just to make the space and the time to listen and hear the feelings under everybody's behavior. When those feelings are heard and met and seen, there won't be such a need for people to act out on them. And that goes for grown-ups too. So let's find out what we're all feeling, find a good way of expressing that doesn't upset anybody else, and then think of a way of how to cooperate and compromise.
Yeah, that's lovely advice, Philippa. And actually, Pauline, who sent in the question earlier, she was saying, I really hope this session, I've worked with Pauline a lot on Salon, and also I really hope this session allows people after that, we've had this Q&A to be able to, find the language to sit down and say, this is how I feel. We won't be overwhelmed by the feelings. We can take it. As you said, when I asked, my partner how I felt, yes, it was hurtful at first, but then we were able to change what we were doing and make it so it was working better for both of us.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah. Don't take other people's feelings not seriously. Take them seriously. Don't take them personally. I think that's really important. So if you feel, oh, but you should be delighted to be cooped up with me 24/7. I'm marvellous. Why aren't you loving that? I really. No, they've just got different needs to you. So don't take it. I always think this is a really good mantra anyway. Don't take other people's feelings personally, but take them seriously. That goes for, everybody.
Yeah, I'm going to put that. Yeah, that's my t-shirt. That's my tattoo.
No, it might develop. You don't want to set anything in stone. It might move on. But take other people's and your own feelings seriously, but don't necessarily take them personally.
Okay, that was brilliant advice, Philippa. Okay, we've got David in Salisbury. Hello, David. Hope you are well. He lives close to his mum, so he lives near and sees her most day from a socially distant 3 meters along the garden path, and uses FaceTime to speak to her. But David's 3 siblings all live away and have their own lockdown challenges. He wants to know, how can I encourage his siblings to call his mum and more, without criticising them and their behaviour, or without him acting like a martyr?
David, it's I statements, not you statements. So it's like, I have been doing a lot of mum stuff, and I think she's missing you. I would like it if you called her. That's all you can do. It's not guilt trip into somebody doing it. Or, I appreciate you've got a hell of a lot going on for you at the moment with your 12 children and your ill in-laws, and that you've, just lost your best friend. And I would really like it if you could ring up mum. I statements. That's all we can do. Don't go, you should. Forget about you should.
Or even thinking about it. It's just I statement.
I would like it if you rang up mum, and I think mum would like it if you rang up mum.
Okay, that's brilliant. I hope that really helps, David. Got a lovely question from Anne about dreams. And she said, why are we dreaming more? I don't know if anyone else is. I'm dreaming phenomenally.
Easy now. An awful lot. I can't shut the doors. I can't shut the windows. And the green toxic cloud is coming in. An awful lot about I'm being attacked by dinosaurs the other side of the street. An awful lot of persecutor victim type dreams coming up for a lot of people. And very lucid as well. And what is going on, this is my theory anyway, is that we've got an awful lot of feelings that we're unsure about what it is we're feeling. And at night when we're asleep, the dream factory that lives in our head is processing all those feelings, is trying to make a narrative to make sense of those feelings. And so we're all dreaming a lot more than normal. I had a dream that I was going around antique shops in Lewis. And I think Freud would call that wish fulfillment. So I had a lovely time going around the shops, looking at old cabinets, which is what I like doing anyway.
Who doesn't?
In my sleep, I thought, great, thanks for that. I would have really liked to have done it when I was awake, but so we're having wish fulfillment dreams, a lot of sexy dreams going on at the moment. People, and sex is quite often a metaphor for connection. So you're getting that met in your sleep, that need met in your sleep. And also processing a lot of fear and anxiety.
Aww.
A good thing to do if you have a lot of scary dreams that make you frightened of going to sleep is to face the demon in the dream. And how you do that is, like, suppose you're having a dream of being run down in the street by SS agents with guns, right? And you're running away, and you can't get your phone to work, and your feet are feeling like clay, and they're getting nearer. Okay, one of those dreams, right? Retell the dream as though you are the SS officer. So dream it from the SS officer's point of view. So you go, I am an SS officer and I'm chasing Philippa down the street. I want to give her a message from her mother, but she's running away so fast that I can't catch up with her. Or it might be something like that. And then when you listen to what you think, oh my God, the SS officer's on my side. How can this be? Because every element of your dream, according to Gestalt dream therapy, every element of your dream, you dreamt it. So it's a part of yourself. It's another part of yourself that you might not know as well. So if you retell the dream from the point of view of the persecutor, even from inanimate objects, like, so from the point of view of the house, I am a house and I have all these rooms, and this is this room and that room, and Philippa is coming towards the house. Oh, she's gone to the usual room and she's forgot about the secret room again. You know, you can learn a lot about yourself by retelling your dreams in the present tense. In the present tense continuum is even better because you really inhabit the dream. Like, I am a police officer chasing Philippa down the road in that way. And then you can find, it makes the dream less scary because you take ownership of what something you were thinking is external, and then you can steer it and own it and make it less scary. And it is a part of you because you're dreaming it. The short form for that is face your demons.
Yeah, face your demons in lockdown. Oh, definitely try that. Thank you, Philippa. Talking about connection, or kind of the sex in dreams being a metaphor for connection. We've got a question from Charlotte, who wants to ask if you've got any advice about managing long distance relationships in lockdown. She feels she's not doing so well with that.
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it? There you go, Charlotte. It's normal. It's difficult, and accept that. You can both have the Skype on for a bit, so you can take a bath together or something, but you're still touching through the screen. I mean, you can go like that, but you don't actually feel touched, do you? It's really difficult. Maybe writing letters in that good old-fashioned way. Maybe watching a film together.
It's hard. Sorry, Charlotte. It is really hard. Yeah. It's just the technology has been such a help to us. If this 20 years ago, it would have been so difficult, but it is just no substitution for touch.
No. Or being with. It's not even the touch, it's the being with, because you might have a long distance relationship with your granny. And before, you might have only seen her once a month, but you had the choice. You haven't got the choice. Having the choice taken away from us as to who we see and when we see them, I think that is quite hard because we might not have seen them anyway. I've been quite taken by not only friends contacting me, but acquaintance. People I bump into at private views and parties, or Salon London indeed. getting in touch. Really, really nice. Like a friend I saw last a couple of months ago at a party. We shared a taxi home together because we live in a similar part of town. And she took a photograph of me in the taxi. And I was going, I looked a bit worse for wear, actually. And she just made a hard copy of the photograph, sent it through the post and says, I really miss these times. Do you remember them? When we could bump into each other and have a laugh. Let's hope they come again soon. I just thought, that is so nice. And also I thought it was lovely because she made herself vulnerable to send that photograph in a way. Because she's reaching out in a way that we don't normally, you know, in unlockdown lives. And a lot of people have been saying, I've never talked to so many people in my life. You know, everybody's sort of getting into, I wonder how so-and-so is. And I hardly ever ring up my sister normally, but I'm ringing her up about once a week now. It's sort of like, better check how she is.
Yeah. It's a really thoughtful thing your friend did. That's something to think about. Unusual ways to be in contact that make people know you're thinking of them.
I mean, I call, or I'm called by my sort of bestest friends sort of nearly every day. But it's these sort of book launch friends or friends I just see once a month at Salon or something. It's just great that they're doing this and I'm doing this. It's nice. I like it.
We've got a question from Liz, and she says, Philippa, what advice would you give to families with adopted children with attachment difficulties in this current situation? I'm conscious that there is a sense of permanence. Sorry, I am conscious that their sense of permanence is very effective, but that it also gives an opportunity for deepening the parent-child attachment.
It does. I mean, sometimes if you adopted, you know, after the first 6 months, any time after that, it's difficult for a child to trust a bond, especially if they've been through a lot of foster situations. And it's best to remember that when their behaviour appears to be really challenging, it's because they need to test whether you're going to hang around. So kind of answer that question rather than, why the fuck are you doing that? I'm sorry, I swore. But I would say it's a very challenging situation anyway. Love bomb, pour on the love.
Can you explain that, the love bombing?
Google love bomb and Oliver James, because he came up with the term. What it means is that you set a boundary around a certain bit of time, and so long as you keep everything safe, you let them call the shots. So, okay, we've got 2 hours. It's just going to be you and me. What would you like to do? We'll do anything so long as it's legal, which I'm afraid these days means staying indoors or going out for our daily exercise. But, you know, if they want to play Minecraft, or if they want to do a drawing together or whatever, you let them and you're there for them and you do what they want. And then you go, 2 hours is up. I'm going to cook the scones now. Do you want to help me? Oh. But it's child-led time is the idea of love bombing. Oh, so the child feels some control.
Thank you. I've got one more question, which is about neighbours, and this is from Louisa. And she says that her where she's living backs on to some neighbours who are real yellers, and they all scream at each other all of their time. It's their only way of communication. And she's really, really worried that this is going to be a very, very long lockdown. So her question to you is, how can she get their house number so that she can send them a copy of your book?
I think she can work that out. But I think sending a copy of a book is a bit passive-aggressive. I think it might be an idea to put a note through the door saying, you might not know this, but when you raise your voice over a certain decibel, we can hear what is said in your house, in our house, and I'm sure you wouldn't want your privacy to be invaded like this, and we would like it a bit quieter too.
It was really interesting. what else can you do? It was really interesting when we did quite a few events together last year for your book, which is available in our virtual bookshop after this session, and you really recommend it. But this question did come up time and time and again: how can I, make somebody else read your book? I noticed every single time we did this, someone would ask this question. I don't need to read it. I've already read it. How do I make someone else do it?
I think we always think the problem is someone else. We never think the problem is ourselves. But if we were to think, so let me just play with this. What if the problem is me? What could I do? And maybe the problem is me because I'm not going round to the neighbours to say, I don't know if you know, but I can hear you in my house. So I'm just letting you know. And I'd really prefer it if I didn't.
Aww.
You can do that.
So,
but you can try. Work.
So I guess my final question is, how do you think we will all make sense of this psychologically? We all have been through an extraordinary time, and
what we do is we'll make up a narrative about it.
Because we are our stories.
Yeah, we'll make up a story about it. What the story is, I don't know, but I think we'll all make up a bit of a story. The world might not be the same again. We might think, hey, we can do without aeroplanes and cars. Let's go down the Greta Thunberg route. Or we might say, hey, I've just realised I don't want to spend the rest of my life with this guy. There's going to be a lot of divorces, I think, after this.
A lot of divorces, a lot of babies.
Christmas, there'll be a lot of divorces and a lot of babies. Yeah, I don't know, Helen. I don't know what sense we're going to make out of it because we're in the middle of it and we haven't come out of it and we haven't got a clear end in sight. We don't.
But we do have a chance.
Live, Helen. We might not live.
I know.
I might die, and if I do, carry on buying my book, eh?
It is available in our virtual bookshop that will be displayed at the end of our session.
I mean, that's something we haven't talked about is grief, because a lot of people are losing people they know. And there's a time, and it's really difficult because you can't go into hospital with people. And so it's really scary if someone goes into hospital and you can't really check up on them because they're all so busy and you can't go and see them. That is not normal at all. That is extremely difficult to cope with. So we're going to have to find those inner resources within ourselves. And as the human race has survived this long, I think we will find them because we always have.
You've made some absolutely amazing points that, we are all writing our own lockdown story at the moment. And there is an opportunity to, develop the relationships that we've got with the people around us, either who we're living with or,
and with ourselves.
And with ourselves.
Especially if we write down our dreams and play all the parts out in them.
Yeah, absolutely. And we are, there are things that we can do for ourselves, for the people we love, the people we are not with, and the people that we are with. And also, it's okay to not be being exactly who we are.
I mean, you won't be feeling great if you're grieving. But grieving is a part of life. It's nothing wrong with you if you're grieving.
That might be a salon all on its own, Philippa, I think.
If something has the power to make us happy, it has the power to make us sad. Other people can make us happy, but they will also make us sad in the same amount. That is the justice of life. Those are the scales.
Ability of relationships.
Yeah, I don't know what that means right now, but
well, you're vulnerable in relationships, aren't you? I think you're always.
Oh, you have to make yourself vulnerable because you have to let go a little bit. You have to surrender to the space between. I don't think we're making any sense now.
No, we're going to drop. We're going to. Well, it has been a chance to ask you anything. This is the end of 3 weeks at lockdown. after the Easter holidays, really wanted a chance to be able to check in with you, Philippa, and ask some questions about how things are going for everyone at Salon also. And thank you so much for allowing us to do that on your Easter Monday.
I just don't know if it's been any use, but it's been great talking to you.
It's lovely to talk to you, Philippa, as well. I'm just going to say goodbye.
I'm saying goodbye.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Philippa Perry, psychotherapist there. Thank you so much for being part of our Living La Vida lockdown with Philippa Perry. It's been part of our series of really doing big salons to keep us going through lockdown. There are plenty more coming up over the next few weeks, including our book clubs with the author, where we're going to send out the book to you and then all have a book club together with the author. And we're also doing our free live streams of big ideas. Our next one is this Thursday about neuroscience and the brain with Professor Catherine Loveday, who's an expert on a neuroscientist and an expert on music and memory. I really hope you'll join us for that. Thank you so much for everyone who sent in all of your questions. Hello to my mum and dad in Yorkshire and my goddaughter Lucy and my friends Ginny, Fiona, Lucy and Anne. Thank you so much for watching. This salon is now closed. Bye.